In the 1990s in the USA, where falling student numbers in agricultural engineering. So the idea was developed, well, if we add in more agricultural science, biological science, environmental science, it'll make a more attractive course, it'll widen the applicant qualifications that we can work from, and it will equip people for a wider range of employment jobs as well. And that seemed to work. So, the definition of biosystems engineering, read that, is a field of engineering which integrates engineering science and design with applied biological, environmental and agricultural sciences. And then sort of second edition there, the evolution of the agricultural engineering discipline applied to all living organisms, but not biomedical applications. It applies engineering sciences to solve problems involving biological systems. Unfortunately, like many definitions, it's slightly woolly. But the first Erasmus project, this is why I wanted the title itself, which ran from 2003 to 6, otherwise I couldn't remember, was the University Studies of Agricultural Engineering in Europe, with the title USA EE on that badge there. And the purpose of that first one was because we in Europe said, oh, it seems to be working quite well in the US, perhaps we can do something similar for Europe. So the idea was to come up with a curriculum suitable for Europe, which would eventually be recognised by FENI and EURAG-Eng. FENI being the umbrella body for all professional engineers, whether mechanical engineers, aeronautical, whatever, and they control the title EURING, European Engineering, whereas EURAG-Eng is, the, as it says, a professional body for those who work in agricultural engineering, so specifically for those in biosystems engineering. So a lot of discussion, a lot of argument about what should go in there. I guess you're not really interested, I'm just going to give a quick overview. First cycle degree from the Bologna Agreement, 180 ECTS. For the benefit of the UK people, who may be here, because we don't use that, we use CATS, 360 would be the equivalent. So if you want to convert this to the UK CAT system, just double the numbers. And the first project didn't come up with a prescribed course, decided to come up with a range of material which people could choose from. So make it more suitable for your university or your country. So the basic sciences, you can see there was a range from a minimum of 36 ECTS to 45, which was made up of minimum 24 maths, then physics, chemistry, information technology should be 12 as a minimum, then electives or options from economics and humanities, 18 in other words, probably business studies and languages. So you can see the total 54 to 72, so roughly a third of the course would be on those basic sciences. The remainder came from engineering sciences. Again, all the materials laid out, there's a core of material which you can choose from, and then extra material on top to give you the range. And you can see agricultural and biological sciences range from 36 to 45, again with a minimum core. So that's something like a quarter of the biosystems engineering course is science. And then we've got applied agricultural engineering at the bottom there. So I think that group did quite a good job in thrashing that out. I'll show you later where the website is if you're interested in the exact material, and you can look it up. But in the meantime, the second Erasmus network ran from 2007 to 2010 under the title, I can never quite pronounce it, ARAPI, Education, Research and Biosystems Engineering in Europe. And the first bullet point was the main aim of that project, to promote this transition from traditional agricultural engineering to biosystems engineering. That's all for that. So the first part of that was dissemination, in other words, letting people know that such a thing existed. So newsletters were sent out to all the academic institutions in Europe. I hope we've got one eventually. Public and private industrial enterprises, there was research institutes and so on. We all sent newsletters about biosystems engineering. There were presentations in conferences, there were journal articles, and the questionnaire was sent out to all firms involved in agricultural engineering to query them on what they knew about biosystems engineering, what they were expecting. I mentioned the website which was established, and if you're interested in looking at the material and it's under that little button there, USAE being the first project title. There's also a database of countries in the UK and what they teach in the way of agricultural engineering and biosystems engineering, so you can find what's done in various countries across the EU. Exploitation, what's achieved in terms of getting biosystems engineering known. In 2009 there was a meeting with to try and get URACE, which is the engineering accreditation system. FEMI, that's the umbrella organisation if you remember, had approved the overall material. If you remember, it's presented as a choice, you could choose what you wanted to. So no accrediting organisation is very keen on that. They want you to put up a specific course and they will judge that. They don't like the sort of wide umbrella material. So that's effectively the outcome from that. In 2009, as you can see, if you can read on this side, University Masters and Doctorate in Biosystems Engineering was established by the University of Leon in Spain. Hopefully it'll be familiar to some of you. Master in Agricultural Engineering and Management, including a lot of Biosystems Engineering in Agriculture in Dijon. Master's degree in Biosystems Engineering for Agriculture and Food at a Romanian university. And the government in Italy changed the name of the agricultural engineering sector to Agricultural Forestry and Biosystems Engineering. That was an achievement. Also took part in the TABE project. Basically, that was to try and do internationally what LB was trying to do within the EU. And participating institutions, Virginia Tech, University of Illinois, University College Dublin, Agricultural University of Athens, Universidad Politécnica de Madrid, and the University of Bari in Italy. So it's quite a spread there. And again, the aim was to make biosystems, or people more aware of biosystems, globally as well as just within the EU. In 2010, a new teaching innovation group called BETI, Biosystems Engineering, has been approved at Polytechnic University of Madrid, Spain. A second cycle course, which is now a C-level course, by the university in Portugal. And then bachelor's degree in Biosystems Engineering developed by an Estonian university. So these are all achievements of trying getting over to the EU, something about biosystems engineering. In 2010, that was the conclusion of that project. We put in for a third project for money for, but 2010 is probably not a good year to be asking for money from Europe, certainly it's turned down. Put in an application again and wait to hear if there will be a third network. There have been problems, obviously showing you the achievements, which is a good side, but for instance, Spain, Germany and the UK have what we call harder agricultural engineering, not in the sense that it's more difficult, but a lot of countries had more agricultural science, biological science in their courses already. So the transition to biosystems engineering was easier for them. The problem in the UK, for instance, is that some of you would be aware, about 30 years ago, the title for a degree was changed from BSc to BEng to make it clear that the holder was a Bachelor of Engineering, not just any other Bachelor of Science. But to get that title, the content of your course must be 80% engineering. So there's no way that the Engineering Council in the UK would accept a biosystems degree as being BEng, which may be off-putting to people who want to study biosystems engineering. In my last year at Harper Adams, or full-time year, I did put forward a BSc in biosystems engineering. I'm looking to see if Keith's reappeared. No. Along with a degree in food technology, and you might think why that, well I won't go into the reasons why, but that was the obvious one to go for, and the academic authorities here said you're trying to do too much, you can't do food technology and biosystems engineering, you've got to choose one or the other, and food technology at that time seemed to be the obvious choice. But I think there's still potential for biosystems engineering within the UK, particularly as I spoke to some of you at lunchtime saying that Harper Adams is now the last university in the UK that does agricultural engineering, and we did that, being the last one, by concentrating on what industry wants, the manufacturing industry. So there's a gap really in soil and water, which agricultural engineering in this institution isn't addressing. So a biosystems degree will address that in the future, I'm sure. Right, just to finish, 2010 was more or less when I retired from full-time teaching, and it sort of coincided with the last Erasmus meeting, so I showed that card. For those of you in the back, it says, "Look here, Watson, everybody has to retire someday." So I thought it would be apt to use it again. So thank you for your attention. Are there any questions?
So, did I understand it correctly that you said you helped lots of others to make this bio systems engineering, and everywhere it succeeded more or less, but not here at Harper Adams? Did I understand it correctly? Or it's not there yet?
It's not there yet, and we're not the only country that there are difficulties.
No, I was just, if I understood that correctly, because you had such a big list of accomplishments, and I thought, oh, and you said agriculture engineering is still here. So I think that's interesting to see that it's easier to do it elsewhere than to do it in...
Well, if I tell you that when I came here full-time 10 years ago, the intake was probably 20, 25 students. Last year it was 85. So we haven't seen what's happening in the USA, or it's been reversed from what's happening in the USA.
Yeah.
Numbers are rising. So there's obviously less pressure to adopt biosystems engineering. In fact, the opposite, there's pressure to maintain what's successful.
Yes, if you're the last of the Mohicans.
Yeah.
Could I say, or to ask about what present Erasmus network for your life? Because you started with Erasmus in 2003 or something else?
Contributing, yeah.
Yeah, contributing. What happened in your, maybe in your life, or what present? Some effect in your life, individual, social, international, and so on? Because I look a lot of material, a lot of new discipline, and new names of faculties. Yeah. Some expression about Erasmus, because we are Erasmus people, community.
I have to confess that the first project I was just providing material, because by then Harper Adams was the last university dealing with agricultural engineering, and the guy at another university kept asking me questions about what we did, opinions and so on, and I got to the point where I thought, well, I'm supplying all this information, he's the one who's going all over Europe to the meetings. I don't think that's fair. I felt a bit guilty afterwards, because he then said, well, I'm retiring now, I think you should take over for the second one. So I didn't come closely involved until the second network was set up. And I have to confess that I'm not a great advocate or believer in biosystems engineering. I think agricultural engineering is fine as it is. Yep.